Okay, I think we could get started. So, welcome to Intro to Web Design. I am joined today by our professor of advanced web design, who has agreed, as we do this time of year, to compete in the challenge of who can type a web page faster. And so, last week, what we did is we discussed updating our typing skills. I highly recommend spending time every week to update your typing skills, to update, maybe a couple times a week. And the results are amazing if you do that. And there's so many really cool resources out there, um, some that are listed in the course. And then if you have questions of some of the popular ones, let us know. And you could put your favorite ones in the chat too, if you would like. That'd be awesome. And Liliana, do you have any comments on typing and just like the speed of typing and how that helps you as a developer?
Well, it definitely helps, especially when another developer that is more advanced is helping you. So it helps a lot to get this help faster, and just consider, sometimes other people are volunteering their time. So if then you're going to be typing really slow, it will make the situation like drag the help, and maybe you won't be able to take advantage of the time that they're volunteering to help you. So yeah,
Yeah. So in general, your whole career in this type of area, probably in any area for the most part, is going to be dedicated off of how typing something, sending messages, things like that. So the faster you could type, the more time you have to play with your puppy or to go for a hike and stuff like that. So, um, and just like in anything, things accrue over time. And so you're saving yourself maybe in the beginning, 30 seconds, then maybe later minutes, then so on and so forth. I think that also goes into leveraging tools, right? If you have really good tools that you use there, and those tools are like websites, resources, figuring out how to ask questions, good people to connect with, building that framework is going to save you tons of time, right? In the beginning, we often kind of bump up against the wall and build these things all by ourselves. But it's a good practice to start to figure out, okay, what is my strategy? How am I going to leverage multiple tools? What's my toolkit or toolbox to solving issues? I will say, when I was in grad school, we were learning different stuff. And my other classmates were learning stuff so much faster than me, and I was like, what is going on here? Like, we're learning coding, and I would go get the Java book, and I'd start going through chapter 1, and they would come with a actual working prototype, like the next week. And I'm like, what is happening? We both left the class knowing the same amount of stuff. They came back next week, they had something working, and I'm still in chapter 1. What happened, right? And then I finally realized that's because they were watching video tutorials, and they would just watch an example video tutorial, how to build this. They would go watch it. They found a video tutorial that they really liked and a person that spoke to them. Uh, Later on, I found one. It was called the New Boston, and his name was Bucky. And I think actually he's the guy. You see a lot of these podcasts, and they're always like, "What's up, guys?" That was him. Like, he was a "What's up, guys" guy. He would wear like a hat and stuff like that. I think he went on to other things after that, working at Google and stuff like that. But his video tutorials are still there, and that's what I finally found. Like, I would watch lots of different video tutorials, but when I found that one, I was like, okay, I understand how this guy communicates. This is helping me as well. So then I started getting a lot better, a lot faster because of him, and never looked at that Java book again. Do you have any thoughts at all about resources that you leverage and things that helped you learn?
but definitely videos. I'm more visual, but more a visual learner. So when I watch somebody doing something, I learn super fast. And something that I realized that was very important is using having a place where I can write things. And in this case, I use a site that's called Notation. It's free. And so I started like keeping notes of things, and that helped me a lot to don't keep asking the same questions, because sometimes like this is so robust and so many topics and things that you're learning that you probably will forget how do you solve something that you solved like 2 3 months ago. But if you have a note, you can go back and look at it and even save screenshots. And then because I'm more visual, so sometimes I even save screenshots, and then oh, I remember. And that definitely helped. I got feedback from some of my mentors saying like they realized that I was asking less questions, and they feel more confident to say that they feel that I was advancing.
That's
And,
awesome. That's
and
awesome.
that makes a big
So
difference.
Notation, it's a notation app. It's like Notepad.
Yes. Yeah, there are many out there, and one of my mentors introduced that one. And
Let me check
I
it out.
didn't have the habit, so it's also about the habit to go and take a note. But what is pretty nice is that you can access anywhere. So if you're at work and it's something that you learn in school and you don't remember you did it, you go back, look at your notes, and then it's right there.
That
And
is
and
so
because
cool.
you did it, you remember. I
Yeah.
have done this before.
No, that
And
that that makes a lot of sense because I use like a Android Pixel, and then I have a Mac computer, and I have two different note things, and they're not connected. 100%. You know, it's a really sinking feeling when you look back at your notes. Like if you have to clean out your notes at some point, which very rarely done. I have so many notes that I took notes and never looked at, and that's actually, I guess, the moral of the story. And then I'll go back and I'm like deleting stuff from my computer and refreshing the computer for whatever reason, and I'll go back and look through the notes, and I'll be like, oh my gosh, like I said that like 2 years ago that I need to research this, and then it came back around, and it was something that if I had knew before that I would have done. But there's only so much time in the day to do stuff, so
and,
don't beat
and
yourself.
what is super nice is, well, this one that I use is they also have the search options, so you can search if you can remember the command or a little like keyword, you will
Yeah,
be able to find the information again and sort it so you can see. Yeah,
yeah.
so
Let's talk about that maybe at the beginning of class next week. That'd be amazing.
yeah.
Let me take a little note, and maybe you could take.
Okay.
Then
I
let's
can do
talk
it.
about
I don't worry,
search.
I can do it. How you
Let's
do
talk about search next week.
tools about tools.
Meta stuff here in these, because I'd like to get to what we're going to talk about today. So today um, we're going to talk about building a website. So uh, if you recall, let me share my screen here. I built this website a while ago. It's open, free to the public. Whoever wants to use it, you can log in and join. You can comment on stuff and things like that. At this point, we have so many different modalities that we're working with to present stuff that wherever you like getting your information from is fine. Hopefully, they're duplicated over time. For example, even this one I duplicated today to make sure that it aligned with what we were talking about. Last week, we talked about the history of the internet and kind of who those founding fathers were and mothers and so on and so forth. Um, and uh, and this week we're going to build our first web page, which is kind of exciting. So to build our first web page, the first step is you want to learn what a text editor is. So a text editor is essentially the same thing as Microsoft Word or Notepad or whatever it is that you're using. But the distinct difference is the spell check knows how is a spell check for code rather than with Microsoft Word, which now is updated that it does understand if you have code or not, which is kind of cool. But I don't recommend necessarily over the long term to build websites with Microsoft Word, although you certainly can. I would recommend using something like Sublime Text or Visual Studio, which we're going to talk about today. And there's tons of different ones out there. There's Atom. There's one that Liliana is using now that's called what?
IntelliJ.
IntelliJ. So there's lots of different ones. for what we need to do, just learning how to build a simple website, they all can do it. A lot of them all become niche vehicles for specific use cases that are really powerful. But to just build basic websites or bootstrap sites and stuff like that, Sublime Text and Visual Studio will do a great job with that. And so essentially what you're doing, just like Microsoft Word, you're writing in some text, you're writing in a note or documents, but in this case, you're using tags that we use in HTML to do that. And then at the end, you're taking that note, you're saving it as a .html file, and you're putting it onto a server where it's then viewable by other people. And so today we're going to look at that, and we're going to look at the features of Sublime Text and Visual Studio, and we're going to compete with each other to try to build a website as fast as we possibly can. So if you scroll down, this is, it starts to define what a text editor is. It covers essentially what I was just talking about. There's extra info here about Wikipedia definitions and markup tutorials and stuff like that. And then here's to download. And essentially I have Notepad++ and Sublime Text. I should really update and put Visual Studio on there too, as it's also free to use. And free is good, especially for this. I wouldn't recommend paying for a text editor at this point in time. I don't think that that's necessary. So that's where you go for that. And really, you could also just do Google Sublime Text and stuff like that. I have some old tutorials on here if you want to see me in a younger form creating poor tutorials like the one we're doing today. You can check it out over there. So that's that part. Let's check our chat and see if there's any questions. Does anybody have any questions about text editors before we move on to the next part? And there's a little bit of a delay, so we'll have to wait a second.
Yeah, so far it looks, it looks like nobody said anything.
Okay, cool. Maybe in the text editor, you guys could give us thumbs ups or something like that, just as when we ask questions to make sure that you guys are all good on that kind of stuff too. That'd be wonderful. And feel free to participate in there and ask other questions or chat between each other and stuff. We're all about it. All right, so the next part is intro to HTML. Okay, so this part is we're scripting our first site. It's really easy to build your first site, and let's do that right now. We're gonna both compete with each other to build our first site as fast as we possibly can. For that, we're gonna include the basic structure of the site. Then we're gonna include the head. I'm not gonna put anything in the head for now. The head of the document is kind of like, I like to consider it like the airport traffic towers. Like it has planes land, it sends messages out. So it kind of sends messages back and forth to other places, to other documents to receive information for your site. And then the body is just the aesthetic visual appearance of your site, which is the majority of the time that we're going to focus in on in this class. All right, so I'm going to open up Sublime Text, and I guess I'll give you kind of a quick understanding of what Sublime Text is. I think I'm sharing my whole screen here. Let me share just the Sublime Text part. So it essentially looks like this. It's a blank document, right? And then what we're referring to is to open up the document, you need to use an HTML tag to open it. And then you close it with a closing HTML tag like that. And then you would create the head of your document like this. I will do it again and try to do it faster. And then you have the body of your document. And this is where you're going to put in some content. And then with that content, I might put in like a paragraph tag, which is a P. And then with that paragraph tag, I might say my first site. And then I'm going to close that tag. I'm going to go to File. Let me share my entire screen in this case. I'm going to go to click on this, and I'm going to go to File, Save As, and I'm going to say my first site.html. That's critical. You want to make sure you have HTML on there. Some would say you need to have HTML. I've been doing this for a lot of years. I don't know, 15 years, maybe more. I've never used HTML. Have you ever used HTML? No. So let's
No.
just go with HTML. I guess HTML is for more advanced people than us. Someday I'll try to understand what it means. If you know, put it in the chat, actually. So now that I did that, let me pull up that file. I'm just going to go to my desktop where I saved it. I like to save stuff on my desktop so it's easy to find. And then I open up it with a browser. I like to use Brave browser these days because it doesn't track my information. And there it is, my first site. There's my first web page. You can see that it's going to my desktop and to the admin panel of my website, but that's where it's building that site. And so if I go and I update over here to, and I show you my whole screen again, and I go and I update this to, oh, I didn't even close the paragraph tag. Let's say I put a heading, which is H1, and I put a heading and say, wow, this is going to be awesome. And then I'm going to close that. And then I'm going to put another paragraph tag and say, can't wait to show my grandma. And I'm going to close that paragraph tag. You see it tries to do it for you. It creates both of them, and you can put the content between it. So let's do that. I'm going to copy Command X or Control X and paste Control V. Learning those type of things also will help you tremendously. And then I'm going to save, and then I'm going to refresh. And there we go. Wow, this is going to be awesome. My first site. I can't wait to show my grandma. Boom, that's done. So that's awesome. Do you have something to add to that, Liliana?
No, it looks just a great
Looks
job.
amazing, right?
Yeah, press.
Send it to some investment bankers or venture capitalists. Okay, so one of the things that is kind of new to us is these tags, right? And I'm going to reference something else which also might be new to you, but it's kind of a fun thing to reference. I'm going to pull it up here. And it's an electrical circuit. And so if you ever look at a design of an electrical circuit for a light bulb, and if I share this screen here, you could see that there's cords that go around, there's a battery, and there's a light bulb, right? And that's what we're looking at here too. So you have cords, you have wire that goes around, you have a battery, and you have a light bulb. Here's a basic circuit: the light bulb, the battery, and the wire that goes around. And the reason that I bring it up is HTML was created by humans. Tim Berners-Lee was the guy who created HTML. And then after that, Mosaic was created by Mark Andreessen, who's now a big venture capitalist. So maybe we should send this to him. And he created the browser. Microsoft was also building stuff at the same time too. Internet Explorer, they were building. And you could actually look into the browser wars. It's kind of an interesting moment in time when Bill Gates was kind of over flexing his muscle and not allowing Mosaic, that became Netscape and now Mozilla, to be on Windows computers. And it actually went all the way up to the grand jury type thing in federal court. And they ruled that Bill Gates could not have a monopoly off of the softwares that was on his software of Windows at the time. And so that was a real game changer. And that's where we start seeing other apps and stuff like that. So Liliana, yeah, once upon a time, Bill Gates wasn't this angel of a figure who just wants to give vaccines and heal the world. At one point in time, he was a little bit more ruthless. But I think he's grown and matured. What do you think?
Yeah.
No
maybe,
comment.
maybe,
All
maybe
right.
he wants more customers. There's
No
a
comment.
loyalty of his customers. I mean,
I'm putting you on the spot. You don't have to follow my lead on that type
no,
of stuff.
no, it's not.
So once again, it's created by humans. It's a language created by humans, and it's certainly not perfect. And I think that's really important to understand, because when we learn it, sometimes things don't make sense to us, and that's not necessarily your fault. That's actually the fault of the creators for not being able to create it in a way that's totally frictionless and totally identifiable about everything that they're doing. And so it's often good when you're learning one of these languages to try to put yourself in their shoes, to try to think like them. Why did they make these decisions? And to understand maybe the foundations of why they made those decisions. We look at like the history of the web tutorial, where there we have the telegram and the technology based off of the telegram that goes to create a computer. And by the way, the wiring of a telegram works a lot like this electrical circuit that we're looking at. So potentially, the reason that, and this is a hypothesis that I have no way of knowing if it's true or not, it's true to me, I guess you would say. It's kind of a way of me mental mapping and understanding what they're doing. If we look at the Sublime text again, one might wonder, why did they use greater than and less than signs to do this? Why did they use a slash to close stuff, right? Like, where did they get that from? These are just humans once again. It's not, language. We often extrapolate language as something that's brought to us by a higher power because it's so distant to our understanding of how it works. But if you go back to the history of language and you look at hieroglyphs, and then you see it all the way up to where we have this English language, you could start to look at the people who helped create that and start to understand a little bit more of why we have language, how it is today, and how we communicate, right? And this is just another form of that communication tool created by people who are still living today. And so we have to kind of, when we look at this, we have to realize, and this is really hard for our designer uh, class, our group of designers, and Liliana knows this really well because we've been teaching designers for a really long time, right, in class. And when we show them code, they're just like, their brain explodes and they're just like, I can't deal with it, right? And one of the things that I have found over time is that people who are more didactic or more engineer mindset that just accept things as they are, they'll easily equate those two things together. So when I look at an H1 tag, for example, that we have here, and I tell you that's a heading tag, and a heading tag is like something that you have as a heading of a newspaper, they immediately say, okay, H1 is a heading tag. The stuff I put inside of that is the heading of a newspaper. The designers say, why did you put H1? Why are there the greater than or less than stuff? I don't get it, right? Where are these decisions coming from? I don't know why design, and this includes myself, by the way, this was a huge block for me. I don't know why we think like that. That doesn't make us less smart than those other people. I would like to think Liliana makes us more smart because we are not going to accept just anything people tell us. We want to know more. We want to know the truth, right? And so when we learn this kind of stuff or coding, it's good for designers to kind of compartmentalize and say, you know what, I'm just going to look at this as a recipe. I'm going to trust that this works when I put it in. And then I'm just going to go with that. I'm going to understand, okay, this is a language. This is what they said in H1, which means a large text font to them, just like, let's say, the word azafata, my favorite word in Spanish, which means stewardess. The Spanish people at some day said, no, that person on a plane is called an azafata. And the English version said it's in English, right? Or it's a stewardess or a steward, right? And we just accept it as such, right? We accept this visual image of this individual on a plane as that word. And so we have to do the same with this text. How about, do you have any thoughts on this wacky way that I look at this kind of stuff?
No ways. I think but it has to also to do with the syntax, well, I speak Spanish, and I remember to change that way of thinking in English was very hard. But then after years, when I went back home and I started speaking Spanish, I realized that my structure in my brain, it was more in English. And I caught myself like speaking, like literally saying words in Spanish. The structure was in English. So this is like, to me, something similar. And
Yeah.
the way that I remember I started to understand how the tag was like working, it was more like, I thought it was like a sandwich. They will have the top and the bottom of the bread. So we need to
Wow.
go
Let
down.
me show, let me show
So
you.
then, one part, in this case, some tags will be single. So to me, that would be like, oh, I want mine with just one meat instead of
I love that.
or one
Like a
thing.
sandwich.
So
Yeah.
I style like a sandwich. So you will
Yeah.
have the tops that will be the bread, and then another layer. So you will be layering like that down. And yeah, so that's the way that I start understanding that I needed to have an open and closing tag, and then go, especially the HTML. So going down, closing, closing, like yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's amazing. And yeah, so one thing to keep in mind is spaces don't matter with HTML. So you can do that. You can do stuff like this, and it's still going to say it the exact same way. You have to actually literally change the way that it's going to work. We learned that later on with grids and stuff like that, or positioning and these kinds of things. I love the sandwich thing. Yeah, the sandwich thing's really good. Um, yeah, and so I look at it as an electrical circuit, and partially because I think maybe that's how they looked at it, to be honest. Because if you look at these designs here, oh, this is a good one. You could see that the door of the circuit looks like a backslash, right?
oh
And
yeah.
when the door of the
Oh,
circuit is closed, it's not a backslash, right?
yeah.
And so that's how I think of it, because you open it and then you open the circuit and the circuit stops running. When the circuit's closed, it's going to run and run and run, right? And so that's the way that I look at it. And whatever way you look at it is fine. There's no right or wrong way. It's just to kind of break down saying um, with these things that we don't know why they did it, but this is how we justify it. So maybe one day Tim Berners-Lee will tell us where it actually came from, or Mark Andreessen or something like that. Tweet to them and ask them. And if you get the answer, come back. That's extra credit, right? And if you're not in the class, then we'll give you a thumbs up or something. So cool. So that's how we look at those things to build the sites. And we built our first web page, right? Which is amazing. Once again, I saved that web page, and then I go over to the browser, and I open it with a browser. So what's a web browser? Do you want to take that question? Like, what is a web browser? What's the difference between a web browser and a text editor, or a web browser and another piece of software?
Well, the web browser will be a software that's gonna help us to translate what we're gonna have. Well, in this case, what is on the web,
Yeah.
and we can see it, and we have different browsers, and each browser is gonna have its own styles. That we're gonna go deeper on that later. So
Yeah.
that's why when you create a site, you need to look at in different browsers to see how much they change, because each browser is gonna have its own embedded styles there.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, that's awesome. The great thing is, you all know what a web browser is. You just don't know how to define it, because you couldn't have got to this video without using a web browser. So the most famous web browsers are Chrome, Safari, Firefox, not in this order, by the way. If we're going by order, unfortunately, I think Internet Explorer is up there. So I think it's Chrome, and then Internet Explorer or Firefox, and then Safari, and then Opera is another one that's out there. And then Brave. Brave's a new one, which is super awesome because they don't track your data. That's their whole deal. So that's kind of cool, right? So that's what a web browser is. It's specifically made just to view a web page. And one of the disadvantages of web browsers early on, and this is actually why we have to sometimes create our own types of code, is they were working on computers that didn't have a lot of memory. So they had to make the web browser as as light as possible, using as little memory as possible. And what takes up memory are just spaces or just lines of code. So when we look at this, although it seems like a little, every one of these spaces actually takes up lines of code. And we'll learn later on that really advanced applications or websites will actually use a tool called minified in order to make it even more condensed so that there's as few lines of code as possible. And so because of that, they also incorporated some pre-built tools that we use like Paragraph or H1. These are pre-built in the browser. They're built into the application of the browser to give us a way to write titles or paragraphs or insert images and stuff like that. But there was a limit to how far they went. They didn't go too far because if they included too much, the browser would have been too heavy and therefore wouldn't have worked well on the computer with all the other applications and stuff like that. So by natively, browsers are very light and rather stupid, I guess we would say. Their job is really just to show the website. They're not supposed to be this really advanced platform. Now, as we've moved into new stuff, right? And we have a lot more space on our computers and stuff like that. We're starting to see a migration of browsers being capable of doing a lot more things, where people are adding extensions and things like that, so that they are actually a lot heavier. But it's not a big deal because computers have a lot more memory. Okay. I'm going to go faster because I think Liliana has to go pretty soon here. All right. So now we're going to go into the competition. Are you ready, Liliana, for this?
Yeah.
I've been practicing. I've been doing my finger exercises in order to be able to type this faster than you. And I believe I won last time. Is that correct? If I remember correctly?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure. By a lot too, if I remember correctly. Is that also correct? That you were pretty much wiped out, right? Like I think you took many minutes. I took seconds. So here we go. We're going to show everybody how quick you can make a website, right? By the way, one of the quickest ways to make a website is you could copy and paste the stuff we've already done. This class is all about cheating. So you're welcome to copy other people's code. That's what coding is. And you're welcome to copy code, but then you change it to be how you want. I will say that learning this is something that you'll probably use over and over again. So at some point you might want to memorize it at a certain level. Okay, so here I go. I'm going to try to build the same site I built before. Okay. Do you want to time me? Do you have like a time? Like maybe on your phone?
Yeah, maybe on my phone.
Or maybe we can look into the chat. Is there somebody who can time us in the chat?
There's the delay thing.
Oh, right.
I
Well,
think
they're still going to time
like
it.
timing middle screen.
Okay. Will you time it then? Just on your phone?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know you're probably going to cheat this time so you can win, but we'll just be as honest as we can.
Okay. Timer. Hold on. I'm not very good at this technology right now.
You just want to use your phone?
Yeah, I'm trying to use my phone, but I have a timer, and I have to change this. Hold on.
Okay.
It's just like.
All right, take your time.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
All right.
I don't know if people can see.
So the goal is, I can't see it because of the green screen, but I trust it's at 0, and that you didn't start the timer already.
Yeah, I can show.
You'll start it when we're really ready, right? You're not going to just like start it too early.
No, I will start when you're ready. Just let me know.
So this is a goal, and then for you guys to try to compete as well and share in Discord your times and screenshots of your times and stuff like that. See if you guys can beat us. The goal of this is to create an H1, to create a link, and to create an image on your site and a paragraph tag. Okay, nothing more is needed. We good on that? Okay, yes. Cool. All right, here we go. Okay, tell me when to start.
Start.
All right, here we go. All right, and now I'm going to put in a H1 for my heading, and I'm just going to put in winning. And then I'm going to put in H1 closing, and then I'm going to create a link. It's called ahref, which actually, once again, makes no sense, but it stands for hypertext reference. We'll talk about that in a second when I'm not trying to type. Berkeley City College.me, and this is the address of our ITW site. And then we're going to close that, and we're going to do tutorials. And then we're going to close the tutorials with an anchor. And then image source. To make image source is to add an image. And then for that, I already grabbed one before. I grabbed a image of a cupcake on the web. I could give you the same image if you would like. And then paste it here. And then after that, I'm going to do Alt equals cupcakes. Alt is just something that's a reference for, I'll explain after. I can't do both. All right, and then I'm going to do the paragraph tag. I'm almost done here. And I'm going to do a victory lap here and show you guys where you can find lorem ipsum stuff. So if you go over here, you could see that there's this thing called cupcake ipsum. So I'm going to grab some lorem ipsum cupcake, which is just generic text that I'm going to use. I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to paste it onto my Sublime text here. And then I'm going to save. And then I'm going to save as, let me share my screen here. I'm going to go to File, Save, Save As, and then I'm going to call it cupcake.html. And save that, we'll say cupcake2, and save that. And then if you right click, I believe it'll also open in the browser, right? No? I guess not. So let me open it in the browser. And I'll open it with Firefox, and here we go. Here's Firefox, and you have winning. We have the cupcake text, and the link works, taking us. No, I put the wrong domain address or something. I don't know where that took us, but it does click.
3 minutes
3 minutes.
and 9.
Last time I did it in a minute. So I'm really
You're a little rusted from vacation.
It's because of COVID. Just to show you guys once again, like image source means that you're going to put an image, and then you just put in the absolute path. The absolute path includes the HTTPS. To do that, you could just go to a browser. And so like if I go to my browser here, I found that cupcake picture by just doing a Google search. So if I go to Google and I go to do an image search, and then I type cupcakes, I got all these cupcakes here. I choose this one. I right click and I open that link in a new window. And okay, so that's taking me here. Now I have to right click again and open in a new tab. And this is the cupcake picture and the final location of that cupcake picture. You can see at the end, it's got a JPEG, or it'll have a PNG or a GIF or something like that. So that's how you know that's the final destination. And if I copy this here, and then I go to my text editor over here, and I paste that in, which I think, oh no, it's a different one. I paste that in like that, and I save it, and then I open that in the browser, or I refresh that in the browser actually. which is this one here in Firefox, and I refresh that, and you'll see that that picture is now updated. So that's really cool. You don't have to own the picture to do that. And for our first assignment, that's how we're going to do it because we don't know how to use the server yet. So just put the full address, which is considered the absolute address for that. Okay, are you ready, Liliana?
Yes, I'm
All
ready.
right, let me get my clock here.
Yeah.
Here we go. The timer, stopwatch. I'm going to reset it. We're at 0. Let me know when you're ready. You have to share your screen too.
Yes, I'm getting ready.
Okay, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Oh, I need permission to share it.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Cool. I was just gonna share my entire screen. So I'm gonna use a different editor, and I think I'm ready.
Do you want to talk about this editor for a second?
Sure, yeah, we can do it. So this editor have more features than the other one. It's also free, and this is pretty nice because you can add customize it and add your own plugins right here. So it's the interface, I think, is very straightforward and easy to use, and you can explore easily more new plugins. It usually recommend new plugins, like this is to run an environment in the back. And you install this really easy. Just click the install and it will bring them up here. You can search for new ones. For example, I don't know. They even have some things for BIM. So I don't know. I'm trying to think about something that we might want in this one.
Maybe in it?
Maybe style. Yes. Maybe something like for styling.
Oh, okay.
Styling, I don't know. So here we have this one. I have never used it, so I feel kind of like
we won't use them today. But so
yeah,
plugins are really cool, right? When you get more advanced, they actually help you to clean up your code. They help you to work faster, integrate with more stuff and things like that. You can do it in Sublime Text, but it's harder. It's easier to integrate with Visual Studio Code.
Yes. And if you want like to explore new ones, I would recommend to go to YouTube and just like type something like best plugins for Visual Studio, and then watch a video before you install them because you might not like them, like some of them. And so yeah, so and then we're gonna see it in action in a second. So okay, so I think I'm ready.
Okay.
So we gotta go here to the top to create a new file. So I'm going to start here. Sorry, I just messed up here, this one. So, well, I usually like to create my first folder and drag it in. So do you want to start the timer or not yet?
Yeah, okay, sure. All right,
yeah,
so I'm starting the timer now.
Okay, so I usually create a new folder, and this is going to be example. I'm just going to drag it into the application, and it's going to create the environment. So that changed the interface a little bit. So here I can create my new file. I'm just going to call this one index HTML, and we have it there. And all these other plugins that we talked about it before, they add new features to the editor. So just with the exclamation point, it's going to give me the syntax. Sorry, I clicked the wrong area. And then with the return, it builds it. So we have our HTML already done. So then from here, you're gonna see all this meta. We're gonna talk about this later. So just leave them there for now. And then from here, we're gonna start adding the H1. This time it was winning. Yeah. And then we're gonna add, what was the other one? It was an
image and a link.
Right? Wait, it was a link, and and then here, I don't know. Do we have a?
Oh yeah.
It was like HTTP.
Yeah, any website. Google.com is fine.
Okay.
And here I could send you the picture of the image too, so we're fair.
So I don't have it. And then link, it's gonna be like that. And then here we're gonna do image, right?
I put the image link in the chat. You could just grab. We saw how we get the images, so you could use that link if you want.
SRC, if I remember right. This one is a single syntax, like I mean, single tag. It doesn't have a closing one, so just saying. Sorry, I can see the chat. It's right here. See it? We can copy it. And we're gonna copy the image, and then we're gonna add the alt, and then cupcake. And we add also Lauren Epson, right?
Yeah.
That one.
You don't. It doesn't have to be full Lorem Ipsum. Any paragraph works. You could just gobbledygook. It's fine.
Right there. There are many different ones, so I'm just gonna copy this one. And save. And this one you can open from the browser. That's pretty amazing. With Control, then we can open a server live. And where is it? Oh, it's right here. And it goes directly. And it's right there.
3:15. 3:15. What was I? 3:30?
Oh my God, we're so close.
You get a cupcake. I'll buy you some cupcakes. That's it for the winning. Or maybe because I can't actually deliver them, I'll send you some cryptocurrency to purchase a cupcake. Cool. So that's how you build a website. It's that easy. It's that simple. And check it out. The assignment today is to build your own avatar. And Liliana, if you got to run, feel free. I could thank you for joining us today.
Great. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to stop sharing. Yeah. Well, you guys still in class.
See you later.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us. So if you go over here to the class, and then you go to Intro to HTML, you'll see the homework assignment over here. And this breaks down the homework assignment. It's essentially to create an avatar that's going to look like this. Or I actually updated it to just be, or like this. So the idea of this assignment is kind of like this thing that's called, what's it called? It's called, I'm blanking on the name of it. Do I put it in here? Answering questions. So if you look at it here, these are the questions that you want to answer ahead of time. And then after you answer, the Mad Libs is what they're called. So it's like Mad Libs. So if you look at Mad Libs here, this is an old school game that people used to play before we even had things like Game Boys and stuff like that, right? It's kind of fun though. It's a fun like word game. And essentially it's fill in the blank, and you fill in the blanks. You don't know what the story is. So you fill in the blanks based off of it being like a noun or a plural noun or a verb or a place or anything like that. And then you plug them into then your partner who's on the other side is asking you what thing it is. Give me a noun, give me a place, give me a verb. And they're plugging it into the story. And then afterwards they read the story back. And oftentimes you get really funny stories, and it's kind of a fun game that also is good with learning vocabulary and stuff like that. And so we kind of did a version of that for your homework assignment, but it's just you. If you want to do it with a partner, that's totally fine. As far as, the partner writes down the answers and you write down the answers for the partner, and then you could read it to them. That could be kind of fun. But essentially you're answering these questions here. You answer them on your own. This is of course a Google Doc that you shouldn't be answering it within the Google Doc. So you could do it on a piece of paper, a separate Google Doc, or what have you. And then after you do that, let me go back to the site. That's not working. Let's click over here. Oh, it's Berkeley City College on me. Sorry. And then let's go over here. Then we're clicking on the assignment. So that's first answer those questions. And then after that, you place them within the story, within this avatar story. And you put in answer 1 here, answer 2, answer 3. It doesn't have to be you. It could be your future self. It could be your avatar self, whatever you want to do, however you want to have the most fun doing it. And then afterwards, you put your story as the HTML in the text inside the HTML tags. And so you could review the checklist here, which breaks down all the different tags we want you to have in this assignment, which is a top header, which is the H1, the body area, which is the body, what that's actually in the body area, the top header. So maybe I should update that and move the top header into this area. Then in the body area, we want you to have heading tags. I guess we just have the title and the HTML tag up there. Paragraph tags, 1 image, like we just did in the example. You could adjust the width and the height of the image. You could use line breaks. We want you to use line breaks. And then you could keep going. So the page is going to just go down like that. So you're using BR as a break, and to create spacing between one thing or another, you could use BR on there. We're not actually using CSS on here. If you want to go farther, you can. And then you could add in your Madlib content. Don't forget to close with an HTML tag, save your file as a .html, and then upload your assignment. And the other things to keep in mind is when we go back here to the main page, you could just go through scripting our first site. So you go through scripting our first site. This breaks down what we just did in a longer form. And then you go to the next part, and this breaks it down. So this is essentially all the stuff that we were just doing. The head, the title we add in here. The title shows up in the top bar up here. This is what you're writing for the title. So you get to choose what your tab says at the top. And then you put your H1, you close those brackets, and then step 4, you go here, and you're essentially done with your page like that. And then this extra page here is a whole bunch of extra text markup. And what's cool about these code pens is you could just copy the content in here to use. And this is the same content here. So here's paragraph tags that you can use. Here's heading tags. Essentially everything you need to do the assignment is on this page. Line breaks and white space, which are the BR that create spacing there. You could add some text emphasis to do, a little bit of CSS style stuff where we're not doing CSS or style stuff yet, but that you could create a little bit of style as far as bold or kind of italic type looking things. Horizontal rules to make a line go across if you'd like. Linking to external pages, so creating a link here. Linking to images, this will link to an image. And then of course you can go to Google Images and then find the location of that image, or you could use the image here. But try to find your own image for this, we prefer. And there's a W3 reference for that. And then modifying the size of the images here, which the only reason it's not working is because this image must not be on that server anymore. So we have to update that. But to resize, it's still the same. You could add height and width to resize. And so that's it. Those are those different things. One thing to keep in mind is the way that we teach this class is a little bit unconventional, or maybe a lot. If you were learning this class in other places, you would learn all the stuff that's inside the head of the document. You'd learn about doc types and stuff like that. You don't need those just to build a basic web page and learn. What I have found is for myself and for others. It's just confusing to use that stuff early on. Let's focus on these things, learn how they work, and then we'll show you how to use that later once we're really comfortable with building web pages. So we're not thinking that these foreign things on our page are doing things to affect what we're trying to create. So we understand this block, how to create the body, how to create these things first. And then as we evolve, we'll add stuff to build a more robust professional HTML5 web page later. And so that's it. That's our stuff for this week. I look forward to seeing what you guys create for that stuff. Are there any questions within the chat? How do you create the logo at the top? For example, the Berkeley City College logo. Just curious. How do you create the logo at the top? I think you're referencing the example. Oh, I think you're talking about like the heading of the Berkeley City College website. Is that correct? Are you talking about the Berkeley City College website? Isaac? So I think he's talking about the Berkeley City College website. So let me share that, which is right here. And so this is essentially just a big image. For our context right now, we'll learn how to build a site that looks exactly like this if we wanted to. But it's essentially just a big image, a big horizontal image that they're putting there. So you could just put a big horizontal image at the top of your page, and that'll give you that same kind of look. Now, as far as moving stuff around and things like that, we're not learning that yet, but we will learn that in coming weeks. We're starting really basic. Let me look at the example that you're talking about. And I think you're talking about this example. Let me share my screen. And at the top, you can see it says Berkeley City College at the top, right? So there's a reason I give an image, because I want you guys to try to play around and figure it out. Get as close as you can, but essentially that's a head H1 tag that we're using at the top. And actually we put the image inside the H1 tag, so they're all together and part of each other is actually the answer to that, which is probably the hardest part about this whole site that we built here. So the image is actually inside of that H1 tag. So we open the H1 tag, we put a small image, and then after the image, we put the rest of our text of what we want to say with Berkeley City College or whatever heading you want. And that's how we actually did that one. Any other questions? I'm waiting a sec because there's a little bit of a delay. Feel free to just kind of shout out your questions even while I'm talking on there because of the delay, and I could address it in the future. Can you watch it later? Absolutely. It's on YouTube, so you can watch it later. Okay, guys, have a great week. I look forward to seeing your assignments, and talk to you guys soon.